In this episode of Sasquatch Theory, the line between folklore and lived experience feels thinner than ever. The story comes from Carla, a lifelong California resident who never expected a quiet camping trip in the Santa Cruz Mountains to become one of the most unsettling nights of her life. What she describes isn't a fleeting shadow or a noise brushed off as imagination, but a sustained encounter that still follows her years later, lingering in memory like the fog that rolls through the redwoods after sunset. Carla and her boyfriend had chosen the campground specifically because it was remote. The land was privately owned, rarely used, and surrounded by towering redwood trees that blocked out most signs of the outside world. No nearby highways, no neighboring campsites filled with laughter or music, just a few clearings cut into an ancient forest. During the day, the place felt peaceful and almost sacred, the kind of environment that makes you lower your voice without realizing why. As night fell, that same silence became something else entirely. They settled in after dark, starting a small fire and listening to the forest sounds that any camper expects: wind brushing the treetops, insects humming, the occasional crack of wood shifting in the fire. There was no sense of danger at first. If anything, Carla recalls feeling unusually calm, as if the forest itself was watching but not yet reacting. Sometime after midnight, exhaustion took over and they retreated to their tent, leaving the fire to die down on its own. Carla was pulled out of sleep by a sound that made no sense in that setting. It wasn't an animal call or a falling branch. It was metal, loud, deliberate banging that echoed through the trees. At first, her mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone else was nearby. Maybe something had tipped over. But as the sound repeated, slow and forceful, the reality set in that there was no metal equipment around their camp that could explain it. Each strike seemed intentional, almost like a signal. Her boyfriend was awake too. Neither of them spoke. They lay there listening, the air inside the tent feeling heavy and stale. The banging eventually stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. It was the kind of silence that presses in on your ears, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Then came the footsteps. Carla describes them as impossibly heavy. Each step landed with a deep, solid thud that vibrated through the ground. This was no deer or bear moving cautiously through underbrush. Whatever it was walked upright, slowly, with confidence. The sound of it moving through the camp circled the tent, close enough that Carla could tell exactly where it was at any given moment. She remembers gripping her sleeping bag, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain it could be heard outside. Along with the footsteps came breathing, deep, rhythmic, and unmistakably powerful. It wasn't panting like an animal or the soft breath of a human at rest. It sounded labored, as if the chest behind it was massive. Carla said the smell hit next, a strong, musky odor that seeped through the tent fabric, earthy and rotten at the same time. It was overwhelming, unlike anything she had encountered before. What terrified her most was the overwhelming sense of presence. It felt intelligent, aware. She didn't feel hunted, but she felt observed, evaluated, as if something ancient was deciding what to do next. Time stretched unnaturally. Seconds felt like minutes, minutes like hours. Neither of them dared to unzip the tent or reach for a flashlight. Instinct told them that acknowledging it directly could make things worse. The footsteps eventually moved away, fading deeper into the forest. The breathing disappeared with them, and the smell slowly dissipated. Still, Carla and her boyfriend didn't sleep for the rest of the night. They waited until the first hint of dawn filtered through the trees before emerging from the tent. The camp looked unchanged. No overturned gear, no obvious tracks in the soft ground, but the feeling that something had passed through remained strong. They packed up quickly and left without speaking much about it. It wasn't until days later that they started to process what had happened. Carla began researching encounters in the Santa Cruz Mountains and was shocked by how many similar stories surfaced. Reports of heavy footsteps, metal banging, powerful odors, and an overwhelming sense of being watched appeared again and again, stretching back decades. Carla isn't someone who jumps to conclusions easily. She admits she tried to find any explanation that didn't involve Bigfoot. But nothing fit. No known animal matched the size, behavior, and intelligence she felt that night. Human activity didn't make sense either, given the remoteness of the property and the sheer physical presence she experienced. Sharing her story wasn't easy. For years, she kept it to herself, afraid of ridicule or dismissal. But as more people have come forward with similar encounters, Carla felt a responsibility to speak up. She believes these experiences matter, not just as stories, but as pieces of a much larger puzzle that we don't yet understand. This episode of Sasquatch Theory isn't about convincing skeptics or proving anything beyond doubt. It's about listening. It's about acknowledging that there are places in this world, like the deep redwoods of the Santa Cruz Mountains, where mystery still thrives. Carla's encounter reminds us that despite our technology and confidence, there are still moments when we are not at the top of the food chain, when something older and stronger might be sharing the space with us, unseen but undeniably present. As you listen to her story, ask yourself what you would do in that situation. Alone in the dark, surrounded by ancient trees, hearing something massive move just beyond the thin fabric of a tent. Whether you believe in Bigfoot or not, experiences like Carla's challenge us to keep an open mind, because the forest has secrets, and sometimes, it chooses to let us know we're not alone.